I think MicroStrategy hits $1 trillion in 2025. At $1 trillion, the number of bears and FUD that we're going to see in the market is going to be unbearable. It's going to be totally ridiculous. And I think at $1 trillion, we see like a mean reversion, and it could happen quick. I mean, we could go from 100 billion to $1 trillion. I think pretty quickly. It doesn't.
Is that all predicated on Bitcoin price action?
Yeah, I think Bitcoin price action. If the price of Bitcoin goes from, if it breaks into a new all-time high and into price discovery again, we get up to 150, 175, or 200.
What about some more? Some more outrageous probabilistic outcomes. In 2016, we went into 2017. We were at like 1,000.
Yeah.
And we ended 2017 at like 17,000 and change.
19. Yeah, I mean 17, 19, whatever.
Yeah, and it was more like probably 850, whatever. It's like something like a 16x or something.
Yeah.
Or 20. I don't know what it is, but like that if this would happen again, and Bitcoin had a crazy 25, I mean, you could be looking at $1 million and change, late 2025, early 2026, and it wouldn't be outrageous from Bitcoin's historical perspective. And again, I go back to, how is this thing not going to go? This is what I keep. Bitcoin is already 8x, and it's already 10x 8 times in 16 years. And if the rocket ship is going up forever, doesn't it have to go up 10x 8 times in less than 16 years?
Yeah.
And that's 10 trillion.
Yeah.
In 16 years or less from here.
Yeah, I agree with you, and this has kind of been part of my long-term thesis. I think this is going to break a lot of like financial markets and people's brains, like to the upside.
Well, Bitcoiners say faces are going to melt. I don't think faces have melted. What is it going to take? It's going to take moves like that. Like, we're not getting faces going to melt going to 175 over the next 12 months.
No.
Which would be great to have Bitcoin grind its way up to 250, which would be very steady, very solid. It'd be a trader nightmare.
Yeah.
Less volatility and just a slow grind. But and it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Where this gets crazy to me, and just like the game theory and thinking through this, is like the air gets pretty thin, like above, I think like even above 100,000, where, 200,000, 400,000 at a $400,000 Bitcoin price. I mean, who's selling, and why are they selling, and how much are they selling? And if they are selling at 400,000, but the thesis is unchanged, if you really think this is a new economic monetary ecosystem where you can use it as collateral to facilitate and finance your life in different ways, in different modern ways, what's the point? What's the point of selling? Especially this is the one of the really interesting parts in my perspective is if there's a development or innovation in utility, and if there's an innovation in utility that happens within the next year, and people start to realize that I don't have to sell my Bitcoin, there's alternatives, and they're able to utilize their assets as collateral and never have to sell their Bitcoin, but they continue to like use their energy to like work in the world and pay off their loan, but don't have to actually sell their Bitcoin. People are going to start doing that. But people have to learn about collateral, which collateral is a confusing concept. I didn't learn about collateral until I started working in a collateralized reinsurance market. I didn't grasp it. I've never been able to grasp it before. I didn't learn it in college. It's not learned, nobody teaches it to you in high school or learning about finance, personal finances, or anything like that. So once people grab that and understand that their Bitcoin is collateral and the infrastructure is built out for it, that fundamentally changes the value proposition. Everybody's always thought the value proposition is like, this is the best money ever. But like if infrastructure improves, that's a huge catalyst. That's a huge, huge catalyst. And all of a sudden, like I think you could see the price of Bitcoin wick up massively. If Cantor Fitzgerald starts offering 8% BLOC loans, Bitcoin line of credit loans, with an 8-year horizon. It's like, holy fuck. I mean, that totally changes the whole like perspective on finance and the value proposition for Bitcoin. So, and, I mean, obviously the U.S. government has a strategic Bitcoin reserve. I mean, we're off to the races. Even if they just announce that they're keeping the existing stack of Bitcoin as a strategic Bitcoin reserve, I think that's a signal enough to cause a lot of mayhem and chaos in these markets.
It'll be amazing to see. I don't know what's going to happen on the 20th and in the days to come. I think, Bitcoin is sort of a simple A/B test for humanity in a lot of ways. But I think, it's unit of account is the superpower. And when you start thinking about Bitcoin as your reserve asset, you're using it as a unit of account essentially. But when you start applying it to anything, and I think, again, this goes back to corporations, nation states, but ultimately people, even if you have no sats or very little sats, using it as a unit account will be a superpower in life. You'll just make better economic calculations against anyone you go against. And what's been fascinating with MicroStrategy, and it's sort of lining up to be the trade of the century here, is, when you looked at something like Amazon, right? Amazon has crashed over 90% 3 times. And through those first 2 cycles, only Jeff and his parents held, through that. And Jeff's parents only held through because they love Jeff, right? When Jeff, though, went through those first 2 things, he understood that what he had was more valuable than the market was deeming it. He wasn't pets.com when the whole entire internet economy crashed. But, people thought he was competing against Barnes and Nobles and Borders and just brick and mortar bookstores. And he realized that before, he had to do books first, but it was CDs and it was music, but it was all of retail, every vertical. But he didn't see AWS coming.
Yeah.
Which is now like 65 or 70% of the business. I don't know, whatever it is.
I think he did, though.
Okay, even if he did. Let's say even if he did, the market didn't.
The market didn't. That's very clear.
And he probably couldn't explain it to the market until he rolled it out, or you know what I mean. Until that everything caught up and the vision could meet the road. It's sort of like when internet service providers came out and it's like, we're promising you a better product when the municipalities roll out better bandwidth, or the telecoms allow us to use their pipes. So it's only so far you can get on the rails. And so MicroStrategy is going from like, hey, we're going to save and put our reserves into this asset to we're going to financially engineer our way through the capital markets and let Bitcoin eat everything to, what's next? I mean, is it a Bitcoin bank?
Yeah.
And what does that even mean to you?
Yeah. So take a look at my profile, search Bezos. I posted like this 2-minute clip, maybe it's a 5-minute clip of an interview that he had in like 1996 or 1998. And he's talking about tracking advertising clicks. And it's one of these like, oh my God, he knew. he knew exactly the power of what he had at that moment. And like the breadcrumbs are there. Like everybody saw it as a bookstore for sure, but the breadcrumbs were definitely there. You can see that if you were to take like a zoomed out view and see like, oh my God, the amount of data that he's collecting here is just like astronomical. Like this is something way, way, way bigger than an e-bookstore. And everybody else was just so wrong. They had no idea. So I think Bezos knew all along the power of what he had. Just the market had no idea, because the accounting, similar to like MicroStrategy, the accounting was so skewy because they shoved all of their profits into R&D. So it looked like they'd lost a ton of money, and they were just shoving all of their money into R&D. Meanwhile, over here with MicroStrategy, the accounting's skewy and it looks like they're making a huge losses, but they're just the way that the asset is accounted for on balance sheet, nobody gives them credit for it, or they don't get credit for it until they adopt FASB here in 2025. And I think that will be an interesting phenomenon in the market. I don't think it'll be instant rocket green candles to the upside, but the market will reassess things as a whole. There's going to be entities that have never heard of MicroStrategy, right? Like this is a small relative company still. There are going to be companies that will learn about MicroStrategy for the first time in May when they adopt FASB fair value accounting. That alone is important and a big factor. So a lot of correlation there between that Amazon example. And thinking about the future, and just FYI, I got to jump here in like 10 minutes. But in thinking about the future of MicroStrategy, they have more of the best, most pristine collateral than any other market, than any other company in the entire market. And what can you do with that collateral? The world doesn't really know yet. The world doesn't really know exactly what you can do with that, but the innovations will come. And the innovations will come because the people that hold this asset are going to start expending their energy building that infrastructure out. Like as the price of Bitcoin rises and the price of MicroStrategy rises, people will be escaping the fiat matrix and entering the Bitcoin matrix to preserve and expand and grow their wealth in this system. And the thing that's really appealing to me is like the Bitcoin itself is programmable. It's programmable money. And nobody's quite figured that out yet. And I didn't have it figured out until I had some conversations with Rob Hamilton and Becca over at AnchorWatch, and I saw the infrastructure of what it looks like to code on the Bitcoin network. And the fascinating thing that they've done is they've effectively created a custody solution where you can have like layers of custody and time locks that are controlled by multiple people and have basically like if-then statements built into a Bitcoin transaction. So like if X happens, then Y happens. If X happens, then Y happens. And that's not priced in. That is absolutely not priced in. So I'm imagining a world, a trustless financial world where you have economic transactions that are designed in code on the Bitcoin network. You can call these smart contracts. They could be layer 2 solutions, whatever it may look like. We don't know exactly what it looks like yet, but for example, in my marketplace, in the reinsurance market, companies post collateral in reinsurance transactions all the time. This is super common. Like you say, okay, I want to take $100 million. I want to take this $100 million tranche of risk here. Let's just call it Florida hurricane exposure. I'm going to post $100 million of collateral in this account. Alternatively, if you don't post collateral in the account, you have to have like a letter of credit from the bank that says you're good for it. Or, you have some sort of like trust system. Now, I can foresee a future where you remove the trust system, you remove letters of credit, you remove this trust component, and you post Bitcoin as collateral written in code with an escrow system, probably insured by AnchorWatch. And you have now insured collateral posted to earn yield on some sort of exposure in the future. So you put your capital or your collateral at risk. And if you've got a company that's got, let's just say, $500 billion of capital, let's just say MicroStrategy or Bitcoin 10Xs, and the amount of Bitcoin they hold stays the same, they're going to hold $500 billion of capital. They're going to put $10 billion of capital at risk. $20 billion, $30 billion of capital at risk in these different marketplaces to earn further yield and to continue this kind of hyper Bitcoinization of the entire market. And this is going to happen. Like it's absolutely going to happen because the companies that hold the better money are going to be able to provide better rates. Like if your money's broken, like the insurance, we're already seeing it right now, like in the insurance and the reinsurance market, rates are rocketing. And on top of an inflationary environment, like it's perfect storm. Like all the bad shit is happening at the same time. Now, if you have a vacuum on the other side that's capturing all the bad money and turning it into good money, the people that hold the good money are going to be able to provide better rates to those that need the coverage, whether it be insurance or lending or whatever that may be in the future. And I'm incredibly bullish for that future. That sounds incredibly bright because you're storing your value in a ecosystem that doesn't decay, and that's just so incredibly appealing to me in any way I look at it.
So you've heard Bitcoin is the new gold rush by now. As world leaders on all sides have endorsed it as the future of money, and now you're looking to get started, we'll show you how. It's actually easier than you think. First, go to your nearest Byte Federal ATM and turn your cash to coin. Byte Federal has over 1,200 locations around the country with the highest daily limits. Go to our website, bytefederal.com, to find the nearest ATM to you. Log in to any wallet, then create an account, deposit your US cash, and instantly convert it to Bitcoin. That's it. We are the only US manufacturer and operator in the Bitcoin ATM industry, and our US-based live customer service is second to none. Go on, give it a whirl, and don't get left behind. Click the link below.